Beautiful.
Hello and welcome to The Bar is Loaded. I am Chris Howard, as always, and with me today I have the man Adam Roberts. How are you, sir?
Hello all. I'm good, man. Very good.
Have you been keeping with all this shit that's going on at the minute?
Uh, Sanity is still there, like you said yourself, just off before we started recording. Obviously, things are a little bit different right now, having to try and manage clients online as best as possible, depending on what equipment they've got access to. Um, Doing a little bit of training here and there myself, but I don't know how you felt motivation-wise, but it's definitely different, trying to crack on with bands and shit. Um, the weather being good at the moment, hopefully I can get the sandbag back out for another couple of days before it all turns to shit again.
Nice.
I know you just got some dumbbells and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah.
What have you
I'm
been
pretty
doing?
lucky. I've got dumbbells. I've got a few, got the bands. So certainly not the workouts that I'd want to do, but at least it's something. It's something to
No,
stick over. But like
that's
you
all.
say, that motivation side of things at the minute is absolutely fucked. Like I said, in the last podcast with Johnny,
Yeah,
like it's so easy that they're in your living room, but so's my sofa, and so's my telly, and so's Disney Plus,
yeah,
and so's Netflix, and so's
yeah,
Xbox.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
but
I get that.
hopefully
Yeah,
not
so I
too
mean,
longer.
well, fingers crossed, but you never know. I mean, if you prepare yourself for it lasting longer and it doesn't, is that easier than hoping it's gonna go back to normal soon and it doesn't? I
Yeah,
don't know
sounds
which
about
is
right, man.
the best way to look about it, but a lot of eating and drinking and video games going down on our end. What about you? Same thing?
Same thing, mate. Far too much eating. I've actually had to cut my calories, which is not something I'm a fan of. Too much drinking on a
No,
weekend because I'm even more so now. It's like it's the weekend. I've been at work. No one else has been at work. I've been in work. I deserve this.
I deserve it now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then you take it too far and you end up necking far too many pint cans of Heineken. And yeah,
Very nice.
so
I mean, so at least you're not day drinking or
yeah. Luckily I
anything
can't.
like that.
No. I suppose that's the one lucky thing is I
Yeah.
can't day drink. But yeah, man. So I was
Well,
thinking. So
lucky,
today,
unlucky,
but yeah, man. So
depends on your point of view.
well, yeah. You know, don't get me wrong. On a Saturday, I have been drinking a few occasions at 3 o'clock. But what can you do?
Exactly. All right, go
Plus,
for
I
it.
believe the football's back this weekend in Germany, so I'll have that to watch.
Better
So
than nothing.
exactly. Yeah, man. So today, with us both being the strongman coaches and tailors, it'd be rude not to have a bit of a conversation about strongman, wouldn't it? And especially with
Yeah, a bit
everything
of a
that's gone
gossip.
on, the past weekend, Thor's 501, the big fight announcement, which we're all torn about, all these home feats that are going on that we're all torn about, the announcement that World's
Yeah,
Strongest Man are going to do a tournament from people's home gyms, you know. But yeah, a lot to talk
yeah.
about, and I'm sure it's going to be a bit ranty, but fuck it.
Yeah, it could. Hopefully, it doesn't go too off the rails, but it,
Ah,
it could.
why worry about
I mean,
that?
if,
Fine.
if all's fair in love and war, then why not? Let's have a rant.
So
So, you want to start with the deadlift?
let's start with the deadlift, man. No better place to start, is there?
Did
So
you did you watch it live?
I indeed watched it
Did you
live.
watch it?
I put YouTube onto the Xbox and watched it on Rogue's stream. No idea who that other fella was with Loz, but fuck me, he was awful. It was like the first time he'd ever witnessed a deadlift or been in a gym
Yeah,
or, yeah, just ridiculous. But, the rest of it
yeah.
was very, very good. He made it look a lot more comfortable than I thought he would. Um, looked at
Mm,
the 465 and saw a bit of a leg shake and was a bit like, ooh, maybe 501, and still thought it,
yeah.
still knew it would happen, but I thought it's probably going to look a little bit scruffy, but absolutely just knocked it out of the park, really.
Mm,
What did you think?
yeah. Yeah, I agree on the commentating side of things. I think that's maybe where the whole event could have been improved a little bit. I think that let it down majorly. All the ads every between every attempt, not too much. They could have included some footage of, Eddie's record. They could have included footage of Thor pulling 501 on the elephant bar, which I think was Arnold's last year, I
Yeah.
believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think that side of things could have been better, but I think the whole setup, the professionalism, the refereeing, weighing of the plates, all that kind of stuff was on point. I thought the deadlift attempts themselves were great. I'm a little bit gutted that he didn't take a fourth attempt and maybe just try and even just go 5'10". Maybe I think he had it in him.
Yeah,
I think he had
definitely.
5'10" in him.
Yeah.
There was the hype in the 2 weeks lead up to it with trying to get Twitch followers and more YouTube followers, where he was saying he'd go for 5'20", 5'30". And I think the confidence for him to say that, I think he could have put more on the bar, but he did what he wanted to do. He took the record, he chipped it, pissed Eddie Hall off, and I think he did everything he set out to do. I just think, maybe for the fans, it might have been better if he'd put a bit more of a statement out there and put 5'10" on. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite gutted that he didn't go for 5'10". At the same time, understanding completely where he come from. In the lead up to this, you had a lot of the sort of armchair fans and people maybe don't know the ins and outs. Strongman that much going, oh, why is it only 5'01"? Why can't it be 5'10"? But at the end of the day, you got to look at it in a
Yeah,
monetary sense. Exactly why he's gone for this fight. The money, the
yeah,
100K reward was for 5'01". If you're going to get 100K for 1 kilo
yeah.
more, why would you put yourself out and do more? Certainly I wouldn't. If I'm
Very
getting
true.
100 grand for a kilo, then I'm going to do a kilo. So I kind of,
Yeah,
understand why he's done it, really. He could have gone for 5'10". I don't really, what was going through his head for that, why he didn't go for it. But, why, it just clears that up a little bit for people. I think that the 501 in his head is a monetary thing. It's not that he couldn't do it. It's just that that's all he had to do.
yeah, exactly. He got his payday and he got to rub salt in some wounds, and he got to say he got the heaviest deadlift of all time. Those three things he wanted to do, and he's done them. Yeah,
Exactly. So it's just win-win-win for him, and for a kilo more, it's just it didn't make sense for him to go any higher or to go. Oh, do you know what? No, we'll scrap 501. I'll just go straight to 510. He's
yeah,
played it smartly
yeah,
and signing a 7-figure fight deal again. He's playing it very, very smart.
yeah. It's very clever business. I think what a lot of people need to remember is that increasing a world record by a big jump is unusual in any sport. If you look at 100 meters, that's decided by milliseconds. If you look at deadlift records in the past, Eddie's 35 kilo jump up to the 500 was one of the biggest jumps we've seen in a long time. Before that, it was being chipped by a kilo. There was some back and forth between Eddie and a few others. Um, with Benny and people like that were around like the low 460 mark, like 460, 461, 462. So that jump, I think it almost kind of set like an unrealistic expectation for a lot of fans who maybe don't compete themselves, just kind of, I don't know, more laid back fans that aren't on top of watching lots of events. That it's just not normal. It's not something that we've seen before, really. If you look at Luke's going for the log record, isn't he? And he's going to try and beat that by, I think, 2 kilos.
Yeah,
Which 2 kilos overhead on a log, that's quite a significant increase. But I think too many people are expecting big jumps, and it's just unrealistic.
yeah,
What's your thought on that?
yeah. 100%, mate. 100% agree. You've got to think of like people in general. Like you've got to think of their bodies. Like some people, Eddie's jump was huge. It was an unheard of jump, really, when you think.
Mm,
And like you say, before that, it was these little kilo jumps. So people have got to realise that yeah, you might be just coming in and watching it just because you want to see 501 get lifted, but you've got to understand why it's 501 and why it's not 510. And I think that's sort
yeah,
of one thing that a lot of the social media armchair people weren't understanding is at the end of the day, this is a
yeah,
person doing it. It's not it's not just as simple as lifting half a ton. It's not that.
Yeah, there are definitely risks involved, and especially at that level, like every kilo you add to the bar, there is an inherent, risk factor going up. So I think that's another thing that a lot of people tend to forget. Like, these are superhuman people doing superhuman things, and one little thing goes wrong, and there's potentially career-ending injury, which luckily didn't happen.
Exactly.
So
That's another thing he would have had to look. He'd have had that contract before he did the lift. He'd have been thinking about that. He'd have think I could have gone for 5'10", torn a hamstring, done this, done that, and that's his training for that fight put back even further. So
yeah,
that's probably
yeah.
the thing that stopped him going for the 5'10" is that contract was there. So
I think we can safely assume that Thor's strongman career is looking like it's over now. Is that something you'd agree with?
looks well. I mean, certainly looks that way at the minute. Obviously, the fight's not happening until the end of next year. He's 32, 31 now at the minute.
Yeah, something around that. Yeah,
I mean, I think Thor's one of them that I think he could easily bounce back, but it's how much weight he's going to have to cut for the fight. It's how much strength he's going to have to lose to have that cardio aspect. Or is he going to be asked about that? Are either of them going to be asked about that? Is it just going to be absolute slobber
yeah,
knockers for a minute and then that's it? So, it's I think it's one of them that it's hard to say now whether he's retiring, but I think it's certainly something that maybe by like next year we'll know certainly. For me,
yeah,
I'm just got to do maybe Europe's Strongest Man in August now, but
yeah. Because I know his coach Sebastian Oreb a while ago had said that there was some talks of him definitely not doing World's Strongest Man next year if it didn't happen this year. So if there's going to be no World's Strongest Man this year with everything that's going on, that he would be done and dusted. But with the fight coming up, you think that, like you say, that's going to impact his training a lot. He's going to lose a lot of strength, like you say. If in a year and 6 months' time, after the fight, is he going to want to put himself through all this again? He's got a kid on the way now, which obviously that's fantastic news. Is he going to want to take the risk?
yeah,
These big, heavy shows that are only getting heavier, and that's, I think, something we're going to touch on later, is the direction the sport's going in. But it's going to be an interesting couple of years for Strong with all this
yeah,
going
definitely.
on.
And I think you've got to look as well. The people that are coming through in the sport. You've got the likes of Kiliskowski, the likes of Lissis, Tom Stockman. You've got these young guys that are coming through that have got, a good 5, 6 years, 7 years even younger than Thor that are just coming to that peak. Look at how
Yeah,
soon Kiliskowski, all three of them, to be fair, they've peaked at such a good point that they can only get stronger at this point, and that's a scary prospect. And I think Thor
yeah,
deep down knows that. Is Kiliskowski's been at his ankles for years, and he's still only like
yeah,
25.
yeah.
So
He's still
I
a
think
young lad.
I think he knows now that probably it is the right time. It's probably something that Shaw's a legend of the sport, but maybe something that he should have realised himself is that making yourself another 10, 20 kilos heavier isn't going to cut the mustard anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very good point.
So,
Anything else on the deadlift? What
um,
did you think? Was his attempt better than Eddie's? Did it look easier to you?
to me, it definitely looked easier. I think Loz's point of obviously they've got two very different strengths in the deadlift. Eddie's a lot better off the floor, but Thor's lockout is far better. So you've got to think of that. The speeds, they're not far different, but I do think that Thor's looked a lot more comfortable, especially if you look at the aftermath. Like Thor just swanned off.
Yeah,
And
he didn't nearly die, um,
exactly.
as Eddie likes
Blood,
to remember
blood pressure
everyone,
probably
remind
wasn't
everyone.
8,000.
Yeah, yeah. Like he said, he wasn't going to collapse in a heap on the floor, and he didn't. And that, I think, was a statement in itself.
Yeah.
The mythical boundary of 501 being lifted could, 500 being the lift that could kill you, being done by Eddie, and made a big deal about the fact that it nearly killed him, and now it's been smashed. and made to look easy. Where do we go from here? You know,
Exactly.
are we
What's
just
next?
saying it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like the point that was made on the stream was, you know, you look a few years back, 400 kilos was seen as this absolutely mind-boggling lift. Are we going to go in a
Yeah,
few years' time and think, do you know what, 600's next? You know, where does, like you
yeah,
said,
like
where does it go from here? It's a very scary prospect, to be fair.
yeah, because I mean, like you say, a few years ago, you could win shows with like 400 to 440. You know, now a 400 kilo deadlift is like
That's
a
your opener.
minimum requirement.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you're not pulling 400, you're probably not a pro,
yeah,
and you shouldn't be at that competition. So yeah, it is crazy. Will we see, you know, anybody doing 500 for reps in the next few years? You know, 5, 10 years time, could we be seeing 500 for reps? Who knows?
yeah. And you know, like
It's a
that brings
scary
us to the
thought.
shows as well. You know,
Pardon?
what are the reps gonna be like in shows? So you know, you look at the bars at the minute. They're what, like four. They look sat at like 360, aren't they? 380. Are they going to go to 420 for reps? You know, you look at Heinle versus Pritchett for the reps there.
Mm,
Is that 440?
something like that, and that's terrifying.
Exactly. I will double check my facts right now as we speak.
Yeah, please check that. As you're doing that, who's your money on for that?
For me, Heinle, I feel like Heinle is at the minute just a better deadlifter.
Yeah, I think he's stronger. The only thing that'll let him down is his fitness. So we'll see which one of them's fitter.
You say that though. Look at the CrossFit Invitational. You know, he managed 51 reps and didn't
That's
look
a good
too
point.
gassed after it. I've just
Was that, do
clarified
you think,
it
his
is
preparation
400.
for this?
Huh?
It's what? Sorry,
It is definitely 400 for
it's four
reps.
hundred.
Yeah.
Okay, that's. I mean, it's not lightweight, is it?
It's not really. I don't really know many people that can rep 400. So,
No.
yeah, man. So, I guess we may as well lead it on to that then, is the worst feats of strength.
Yeah, let's do it. So, what's your take on it all?
So, I mean, I guess this brings us back to the deadlifting in a little way, is are they world records? That's what there's the big debate that's going on at the minute. Are they a world record?
I think so. I'm I'm team. Let them count as official. What about you?
I yo-yo on this. So, when it first come out, I was like, absolutely not. It's got to be in competition. You know, I can't claim that I ran 100 meters in 2 seconds. You know, just because I've sped up a video or whatever. But I think when you like we touched on the legitimacy that they made it. You know, they weighed the bar, they weighed every single plate. You know, can you argue with that now? You know, and I'm with you on that point now. I think it is a world record. Everything's proved. You know, there's no you can't cheat it. So yeah, I don't see why
Yeah,
it should be.
yeah, I agree on that one. I mean, I think we'll probably get into this a little bit later when it comes to like the sport on the whole. But you know, we had IFSA a few years ago try and standardize equipment for records, and I think if there are standardizations at least for these attempts that are being done with everything going on, then I think they should count as legitimate. Obviously, if you've not got 100% certainty that someone's log weighs a certain amount and their plates weigh this, then you can't do it. But I think if it's documented, at least the way they did it with the deadlift, and it's verified by impartial referees, then 100% they should stand. And I mean, we've seen record attempts being done at events outside of competitions by single competitors. So I don't see the difference. You know, as an example, Martinez Lisis with his Steinborn squat breaking his own world record at a record breakers event.
Yeah.
He was the only person going for that
Same with the
record.
front squat as well at the Ultimate Team Strongman last year. You know, it's I guess it's exactly that, isn't it? You know, if all those count, why wouldn't these?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, So you either have to say that records can only ever be done in competition and not even as a separate event. It has to be done as one of the competition events, or you allow these events to stand. I think you can't have, especially in a sport like strongman where it's multi-federation at the highest level, you can't have, oh, this counts in this circumstance and this doesn't. I think trying to force these records to be counted unofficially would only hurt the sport at this point.
Yeah. And I guess that's a big thing as well, is what do you think to the standardization? Do you think we should have someone that is at the top? Do you think there should be one federation that looks after all of it, or?
In theory, it's a nice idea. I mean, I believe it was one of the guys from Giants Live who was saying that they, at the moment, what they kind of do, the top level kind of promoters and current feds, they just kind of have a bit of an open dialogue when it comes to what kind of equipment they're going to use and what size logs they're going to use at that kind of level and all this kind of thing, which I think that in itself, if that's done well, that could be enough. But an overarching kind of federation would be interesting. I know that this is something that was tried, I think was it late 90s, and it just didn't work very well. Who knows? It's a nice idea. It's just the practicality of it. Because one of the fun things about strongman is the fact that it is slightly random. You can turn up at events and you've got random bits of kit that are completely different to what you've used before or what's been used in other federations. If everything's standardized, does that just dilute the creativity in the sport a little bit?
Yeah, so you mean obviously the prime example of that is the Arnolds with the absolute massive wheel of pain. It was, would this standardization see things like that, go amiss? But yeah, like it's just an interesting concept. Part of me thinks that it would work really well, especially in modern day times. Like obviously the late 90s, we didn't have things like this. Contacting people now is so much easier than it was at that point. So I feel like if there was an overarching federation, then it'd work a lot better now. But like you say, is it what the sport needs at the minute? That's up for debate.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of record attempts, and if you look at the sort of events that are being used for these attempts, these are easier. The ones that are easier to standardize, like the deadlift, the log, Atlas stones. These are all things that it's not difficult to get the same spec equipment anywhere. You can have people make you logs that are a certain diameter, 13-inch diameter or whatever, and then kind of keeping some of the more obscure events that don't have to be standardized. I think that's maybe the way to go. Like records on standardized equipment, just so that it's a level playing field. And then when it comes to competition, obviously you've got all the guys competing using the same kit. So it doesn't really matter if it's non-standardized, if it's 12.5-inch diameter log over 13, or if you've got natural stones over a molded Atlas stone. I think that doesn't really matter too much. But just some kind of communication among the different promoters to what is maybe kind of the sorts of kit that you'd want to see. I mean, the other worry with a standardized overall fed is that every competition is going to start looking the same, and this is somewhere that a way it's starting to go, which I think we need to be careful of. Is we don't want World's Strongest Man to look just like the Arnold. We don't want Wuss to look just like either of them. Like they should kind of have their own flavor.
Yeah,
and I think that's maybe a pro to having these different promoters and federations running at the moment. What's your take on that one?
yeah, 100%, mate. Like that's the beauty of these competitions at the minute, is they're all different, and that's what draws us in. That's what makes us more interested. It's not just that we're a fan of the sport, a fan of the athletes competing. It's the fact that we know the competitions are going to look different. You look at World's Strongest Man last year. They went all out. They went to Florida. They had all the monster trucks and shit like that. the Arnolds went,
Yeah.
again, like we spoke about the Wheel of Pain, they got Rowe to build this 350k piece of kit that they use once a year, and it gets, then goes back into storage. And it is that beautiful thing. Look at the sheer scale of wuss, the 10 Atlas Stone run, the fucking pulling a tank, shit like that. And that's one thing that, as much as part of me would want an overarching federation, I wouldn't want that to go amiss. I'd want the individual federations to still have their own say on events, rather than just this, like you say, standardization would be good, but we don't want it to go boring. And I think that's what probably is the reason that there isn't one at the minute, is because that's just not a very clear spec, is it?
No, it's like I say, it would be too easy to make the sport dull, At least standardizing rules of typical lifts and standardizing the equipment on the less unique events is the way to go, in my opinion. Like I say, it'd be a shame if we lost some of the more cool looking events, because that's the thing with strongman. Like, it's always just been that it's just cool.
Yeah.
Back when they could flip cars and do stupid, dangerous shit. Do you remember I can't remember what year it was, but there was an event where they were having to use riot shields to get past guys with fucking massive, like fire hoses, and it was just some obscure shit. This was a long time ago, but I remember seeing a clip of that once. They were being blasted with fire hoses, and they had like riot shields, and they had to try and get past them. It was like some like gladiator shit, but it was epic.
Yeah, and I mean, the
It's
80s and
obviously
90s.
It's toned down a lot now, but
yeah, the 80s and 90s were just a mad time for strongman. That classic video of fucking Kazmaier sumo wrestling at a comp and just shit like that. Like, I think some of that coming back would be fucking hilarious, but it's probably not the safest thing in the world. Fridge carries, something that I've got coming up in a comp, should be great fun, but again, something we've not seen since like the 80s, 90s. So, but yeah, it was a mad time for the sport. But again, it's good to see that, these individual federations are coming up with like these big, massive, like visual things, because the sport's growing, and that's a great thing. And the reason it is growing, I guess, is because that, there's household names now to these sports, and the companies just want to make this like better spectacle of things that we can see, and things that we can go, oh, it's not just a big lift, it's in the middle of Dubai in a fucking fountain while they're deadlifting. It's all that combined is just growing the sport, I think.
Yeah, it's got to have that visual appeal, otherwise. I mean, let's face it, World's Strongest Man, first and foremost, is a TV show. It's entertainment. It's a competition second, at least from a business standpoint. And, Wuss and the Arnold are going that way as well, where it's become this entertainment spectacle that happens to be a competition.
Yeah.
So I think we can't lose that. It's one of the best things about the sport.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway, is the entertainment factor. Are there any of the home record attempts that you think are the most really controversial?
I mean, to be fair,
or are you on board with them all?
I'm pretty much on board with them all. I mean, Alexei Novikov's one, I'm a bit baffled by that one. I don't really understand the point of it. Like, obviously,
which one's that one?
That is the giant dumbbell for reps, which
Right.
to me, these feats of strength is watching that big one fucking lift. Luke's log lift, it's watching that big fucking record lift. Tom Saltman, it's him wrestling the biggest stone that anyone's ever fucking picked up. Rhiannon's same thing.
Yeah, what's the weight for Tom Stone again? Was it 600 pounds, or am I making that up?
It's I'm not 100% on the exact weight. I think it might be 275, something like that.
So just over 600 pounds.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. Like, when you think of the size of that stone, I mean, the biggest stone we've got is what, 167?
Yeah.
And that is a big fucking bit of concrete. Like, how big is this stone going to be?
Yeah. And he's already saying, I mean, 300.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's probably the only human alive that could do it just because of the length of his fucking arms.
exactly.
So it's unreal. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that one. I think there's a bench press going on.
Yeah,
Maddox
Jesus
is going for a
Maddox, yeah.
bench press record.
Yeah, which
Um,
is a given, I think, straight away. Again, a bit odd that I think they've tried to gear it to strongman and then Julius Maddox has jumped on it. Is a bit weird, but either way, we're going to see a big fucking bench press. So
yeah.
no
Which
harm, foul.
how heavy is it that he's going for?
High
Because I know Thor was, yeah. Because I know not Thor. Brian was chasing the bench record and was saying 701. So I'm guessing Maddox is trying to break 701 pounds.
Yeah, I
What's that
think he
in
did. I
real
think he
money?
did 367, didn't he? He did 367 in training not long ago.
That's ridiculous.
Exactly. I mean, a 300 kilo bench on its own is a ridiculous feat, but to go over 350 and to approach near 400 is just stupid.
Stupid. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, the only the Novikov one's probably the only one that I think is a bit weird. The others I think have got a great place in that. Like, it's great to see Terry Holland's getting involved as well. I think the Pritchett Heinler one, again, it's probably on a similar level to the Novikov one, but at least it's that competition aspect.
Yeah, it's nice to see it being like a head to head. I think that's quite cool.
Yeah.
Keeps, like you say, keeps it competitive. All right, so I guess that leads us to the World's Strongest Man Snapchat, which I don't know anything about. You're going to tell me all the details, and we'll see what I think of it.
Yeah, so excited. So I pitched this to Adam before and said, did you know about this? He didn't know, and he still doesn't know who the people are getting involved. So I get the joy of joys of going through the list of who is involved. I get to see his reaction. You get to see his reaction. You get to hear his reaction. So this is going to be fucking hilarious. So
Yeah.
first and foremost is the fact it's on Snapchat. To me, that is fucking ridiculous. What grown adult has Snapchat these days? Like if you're younger than like 21, what the fuck have you got Snapchat for? You're a fucking nonce in my eyes. It's a bit of a brutal one, but that there it is. But anyway.
So what's the premise behind it then? So you said off air that it's not the official World's Strongest Man. It's just a event that they're running.
It's just that it's essentially like an online competition. I don't know the full rules of it. Oh, hang on, I've actually got them here. So,
oh, nice.
So event one is an overhead press. Event two is deadlift reps. Then there's a loading race somehow, a farmer's walk, and then the finals. But what they're staggering it, so like it'll be like athlete 1 v athlete 2, athlete 3 v 4, and then they'll go through it that way. So it looks like a pretty standard comp. How it's going to run, how it's going to be fair, we wait to see.
Yeah.
Eddie Hall is hosting it, so there's a prime opportunity for him to talk shit about his fight. So we'll have that to look forward to.
Is that not a bit ironic that the guy who was kicking off the most about home records being broken is hosting an event that is an online strongman competition? That just seems a bit sus to me,
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the same thing. Granted, there's probably going to be no records broken, but your whole thing was saying if it's in your home gym or wherever it is, then it's not a competition. Yet apparently this is a competition.
Yeah,
so,
it's a bit hypocritical.
Massively, and don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Eddie fan. Part of me wants, thinks that it's going to be him that will win the fight. But still, to me, this is just completely sus. Like, why have you gone on this big rant saying that Thor's record shouldn't count when you're now doing something very similar? But hey ho. So, are we ready for the athlete breakdown?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I don't know what best way to go about this. I'll tell you what, right? I'll go in the order that I think that you'll laugh at the most to the ones that you'll actually go, oh, do you know what? Fair play. So up
Actually, no.
first.
Start. Hang on.
Okay.
Leave the controversial ones till last.
Okay.
Let's go through the kind of the standard ones early. Can I get a couple of predictions in?
Okay, of course you can.
I would be surprised if Kielishkovsky isn't involved
Okay.
because the man loves a competition.
Okay.
Same for Novikov. I'd be surprised if he wasn't involved in there somewhere.
Okay.
I will. I'll be so pissed off if Brian Shaw and Robert Oberst are on this list. I will be so pissed off if those two are on it, just because they were again two who seemed the most against these home records, especially Obi being Eddie's little nut hugger,
Yeah.
who was just such a man child about the whole thing. So I'll be pissed off if those two are on it. I would expect to see. I mean, JF Karan is just everywhere, isn't he? He's always the dark horse in any competition, and he's always in competitions. Do I think Martins will do it? No. At the moment, all his training seems to be around rehab, so I don't think he'd be involved in it. And maybe one of the Stoltmans. Those are my predictions.
I can tell you got 2 correct out of all that, and only 2.
Oh, fuck. Jesus.
So we will go with the like you say, we'll go with the ones that that you'd expect to see in a competition, like not like this, but just a World's Strongest Man Giants Live S competition. So first and foremost,
Yeah.
we have the hero, the legend, the world's strongest gay, Rob Kearney.
I hadn't mentioned Kearney, but I was thinking about this earlier, and he would have been one that I'd expect to see. So
It
that's
makes
good.
sense with his American record coming up that he'd want to do this just to keep fresh. So it's
Yeah.
completely understandable. Then we do indeed have Luke Stoltman. Again, I think it's the same reason that he just wants to keep fresh.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Then we have Adam
Go
Bishop.
on, what was that? Another one that I was thinking earlier in the day when we said we were going to do this, and I forgot to mention, I thought Bish should do it. Yeah, good to see. So we've got one Brit so far.
2.
2 Brits. Well, yeah, true. Scotland counts, doesn't it?
It does indeed, mate. It does indeed.
Yeah.
We then
My
have
geography is terrible.
Mr. Eddie Joe Williams.
Okay, nice.
I thought that it's just a nice touch, something that you don't see that much on the circuit, so it's quite nice to see him involved.
Yeah, especially at a bigger. I mean, we can't really call it a bigger comp, can we? But a comp with a bigger name,
Yeah.
maybe. It's got the WSM attached.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We then have Rongo Keane.
Nice.
Again, for me, very nice to see him involved. Like, I believe this will be his first appearance in anything Giants Live related or World's Strongest Man. So this will be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
we compete in 2018, I want to say, actually. It might have been 2017
possibly. I
or
don't.
competed at Worlds.
It's nice to see. I mean, not a lot of people, not a lot of the casual fans will know about Rongo, and he's a cool dude.
Mm-hmm.
Great personality, pretty chill. So yeah, nice to see him on again, it won't be big screen, it'll be on your phone screen, but what can you do?
Then we have Mr. Nick Best.
All right, okay.
And of course, where Nick Best is, there's not going to be one person who follows, and that person is Mr. Robert Oberst.
Oh,
They've called each other out, so this is just going to be a bitch fest whilst in the middle of a World's Strongest Man, which isn't going to be much fun to watch. But
I think so the guys, Eddie, Nick, and Obi are obviously all involved in the History Channel show. Any beef, any rivalry between Obi and Nick Best is all for show. It's all bullshit. So if there's any of that going on, then it's just a farce. The thing is, I guess we could come back to this later with the fight coming up. But it's like Robert Oberst is determined to kind of make strongman as close to WWE as possible.
Yeah.
You know, with all the shit talking and just acting like a dick all the time. But the thing is, if you look at when was the last time you've seen like a real rivalry in strongman? Like a lot of the top level guys, there's no animosity there. There's no bullshit. They respect each other. They're just there to compete. You know, they'll support each other in a comp. You know, everybody there wants to win. They wouldn't be there if they didn't want to win, if they weren't competitive. But most of them behind the scenes are really close. They get on very well. Do we need it to turn into the WWE? WWE is a thing.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to turn World's Strongest Man into a bitch fest, like you said.
Exactly. But that leads us nicely on to the final competitor, who is Mr. ex-WWE wrestler Evan T-Rex Singleton. So,
Okay, I do not know much about him, so do you want to fill me in on who he is?
Obviously, as described, ex-WWE wrestler. He won the Giants Live US, I don't know what you'd even call it, comp last year to get into Worlds. Is the one that's got the ridiculous fucking like bone tattoos on his fingers. Roars a lot. But yes, apparently he's one of them that he looks like a dick, but apparently he's like one of the nicest people. So, I haven't seen too much of him other than like his own training and what I've seen of him in Worlds. But you'd watch him, you just think you're a fucking dick, mate. Turn it in. But yeah, apparently in person it's the complete opposite. It's just that his fucking wrestling background comes out. Maybe that's what's rubbed off on all the fucking Eddie and Oberst is this guy fucking coming in and acting like a wrestler, so they want to do the same.
I don't know, I think Eddie and Obi were twats before this guy ever came about.
Oh, 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 oh. I mean, this is
How's that for a hot take for you?
That is hot. That is absolutely burning. And this is a funny thing that I saw Sam Bollins actually post on his Facebook not long ago, saying that he was laughing at all the people coming out, saying like shit talking the fight, and saying that if one of them got their hands on them, knock them the fuck out. And that's I agree completely with that point. If I took a dig off Eddie or Thor, I would be out cold.
Oh yeah,
it's still fucking hilarious to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So is there anything else about the WSM? I mean, the events sound pretty safe. Yeah, they've not gone for anything. Yeah, and that's kind of a shame because the whole point of Worlds for me is that it's a bit out there. You know, the events tend to have that spectacle about them. Like you said, last year we had the monster trucks. So I think, does that just diminish the brand a little bit if you've just got a bit of a dull show that doesn't have that visual appeal?
Yeah. I mean, I think they've done it very standardized because obviously it's in people's gyms, isn't it? So, at least you've got equipment there that everyone can do a deadlift in the gym. You'd have thought they could all do an overhead press of some kind with whatever they've got. Carries, farmers walks. Again, it's very standard equipment. So I understand why
it's
they've
very
done it.
safe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very safe. And I think the reasoning behind it is probably purely Wuss's feats of strength.
Yeah.
They completely blew everyone out of the water when they decided to do this. And, it divided opinion, but it's a fucking clever move that during this lockdown when people arguably are forced to, like, look at computer screens, look at the telly, look at YouTube, whatever, that, to do things like this is absolutely a smart business decision. And I think World's Strongest Man just thought, well, we're best to do something as well. So I think that's what.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't want to be the promoter that gets left behind because they didn't think of something or they didn't capitalize on it. In one respect, it definitely brings more eyes to the sport, which could only be a good thing, you'd hope. But it's just whether this can be done professionally enough that it doesn't come across as a complete farce.
Yeah, I think that's
the more event. Yeah, because I mean the problem with a lot of these events, could be the policing of it. Making sure that when, if they're doing this medley, how are they going to make sure that that's standardized and that it's kind of fair? I I don't know. I don't know how I feel about competitions being run like this. I think record attempts, I can get behind that being done kind of virtually, online. It's easier to manage, but a whole competition with 8 athletes, did you say it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, so having to try and police 8 athletes through this new system and keep it all above board. I don't know. I'm torn because I think it's a good idea to keep eyes on the sport at a time like this, and it gives the fans something to watch. But I just think this could go so horribly wrong in terms of being a legitimate thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think there's too much honest on it being a legitimate comp. I think it's just something just that they can put out that will keep World's Strongest Man relevant as a federation. But I think for me,
Mm,
the biggest thing that just doesn't sit right is the fact, why is it on Snapchat? Like I was saying before, like people over a certain age do not have Snapchat, and if you do, it's just wrong. You should,
yeah,
it's not for your age group, Sunshine. And it's like, a lot of strongman are in the above age, age bracket. So I don't see who's going to watch this. And I'm not going to fucking download Snapchat just to watch it. I don't see the point.
mm,
Maybe it's to
yeah,
bring younger viewers in. I don't know, but you're certainly not going to bring in the everyday fan. You're just going to bring in people that maybe just fucking have Snapchat and we'll be flicking through and might go, oh, look, there's some World's Strongest Man shit. I think it is maybe just purely into the young audience, and I think that's just a weird move to me, to be fair.
yeah. If that's their play, it is a bit strange. Again, money talks. I'm pretty sure it's Facebook that owns Snapchat now. So
Hmm.
they could have used Facebook instead. I guess it just depends on what contracts have been signed and how many zeros have
Hmm.
come after. It is a weird one. I'm not too keen on it at the moment. That might change depending on the information that comes out about it. But right now, uh,
Yeah,
I'm not sold on it.
yeah,
But the Eddie and Obi being involved has pissed me off. I just think that's completely hypocritical and just a dick move.
yeah.
But I don't know if I'm surprised that they've done it. To be honest,
It 100% doesn't surprise me that Eddie's done it. And I think, in fairness, I think it's one like if Eddie's doing it, why wouldn't Obi do it?
Mm. It's in character for both of them, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's a shame. Eddie, I'm a huge fan of, but just there's some character weaknesses there. Points for me.
Does that bring us on to the fight?
I think it brings us on to the fight.
So, are you Team Eddie or Thor for the fight? Not discounting all the shit around it, just the fight.
So I think this is where it gets tough. I think if you were to ask me who am I behind in terms of a person, I'd say Thor. I find him a lot more of a humble person. Who do I think is going to win
Yeah,
the
he's easy
fight?
to get behind, isn't he?
Yeah, who do I think is going to win the fight? Eddie.
Why?
I just think there's a video that's not come out like long ago that's like leaked of Thor when he was boxing a few years ago, and it just looked awful. Granted, he's got a year to train
Mm.
for it. We know that Eddie's been boxing a lot to try and lose weight, and we've seen some
Mm-hmm.
of the absolute haymakers that he's thrown. Granted, they don't look pretty, but I can't imagine they don't I can't imagine they tickle. Um,
Yeah,
Eddie's been a bouncer in Stoke. I've been on a Monday night in Hanley. I know what the bouncers are like in Stoke, mate. They're fucking rough. So if if he gives a dig like any of the bouncers that I've ever encountered, then I can fucking assure you that it's a good hit. So
yeah. I saw a video earlier of Eddie doing some pad work, and I'm glad you mentioned haymakers because I mean I'm no boxer by any stretch. I think we all know that. But watching him drop his hands every time he goes to throw power shot after power shot after power shot, and just being very slow and predictable looking. He's telegraphing what he's going to do. I really want Thor to knock him out. I really want Thor to just put him to sleep. Mainly just because I don't like Eddie, and like you say, Thor's a lot more likable. But I think if Thor's a bit more of a blank canvas with less experience, then would it be easier to train him to be a good fighter compared to someone who's got years of experience of knocking people out with haymakers as a bouncer with a dodgy goatee back in the day? Can we not let anybody forget about Eddie's dodgy goatee back in the day? I don't know. I really want to see Thor knock him out.
I mean, I think we're going to see
So,
knockdowns. I think that's definitely going to be something that'll happen. Is someone going to get knocked out? I don't know. That's a hard one to say.
would they be allowed to? Would they be allowed to go to that level with? I mean, the money that's on the line, the fact that they're not pro fighters. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they're going to be
Would that
wearing
go
head
to that point?
guards.
No, they're both too proud for that. They
Yeah.
wouldn't want to look like they're weak. I don't think either of them would do that. But how much of this beef do you think is real, and how much of it is both of them knowing that they're getting a big 7-figure contract and they've got to sell it, make it look good, and then that's a big chunk of their retirement sorted? What's your take?
I'd probably say it's probably 80-20. 80%, 100%, they've probably just been told to talk it up a little bit.
And
You look,
20% real.
yeah, I mean, you look at Eddie's videos that he posted not long after it was called, like, Thor called him out. It was just, like, we go back to it, it was just fucking like WWE, it was just wrestling. It's just like, come on. Like, you're two grown men, and this is
Yeah,
a sport that we give a shit about. Like, please do not
yeah,
drag it down that route. And if you can keep it fucking,
yeah,
like, by all means, shit talk each other, but please do not turn it into this fucking like, you did this, you did that. Your mum's a slag, shit like that. Like, you don't need to take it down that route, do you? Like, it's just we don't.
I would love to see Thor just start chatting shit about Eddie's mum.
I mean,
That
don't get
would
me wrong,
be
it'd be hilarious.
hilarious.
It would be funny as fuck, but like,
Yeah,
the sport is starting to creep up in popularity. We don't need it dragging down by
yeah,
your
we don't need
flag.
it. No,
We don't need that.
no.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be great to see the videos that come out. Will Eddie's haymakers improve? Will he actually do some more finesse footwork? We don't know at this point. Like you say, I think I agree completely. Thor's this blank canvas, so probably his skills might be a bit better in the ring, but it's just going to be haymaker after haymaker. I think, regardless of whatever they do, that they're
Yeah,
not boxers. They're not built like boxers. It's
no, definitely not.
you know just tell them to have a deadlift off in the middle of the ring with fucking boxing gloves on. Just do something like that.
There's a new event for Worlds.
Yeah, yeah, boxing glove dead. So, but no, it's going to be good. I think it's going to bring a few people to the sport. I think it's going to piss a few people that are already fans of the sport off. But
Yeah,
you know, it,
definitely.
it's I think it's one of them trade-offs, isn't it? Really, it's great to bring in a huge audience. It's going to be pay-per-view, isn't it? It's going to make people stay up and watch it. So, you know,
It's gonna make a lot of money.
it's
At the
going to
end
make
of the
a
day,
lot
and
of money.
that's
Yeah, hell of a lot of money. And you think of all the people.
unfortunately everything boils down to that at this point, doesn't it?
It does indeed, and you think of quite a few brands that are going to get on board with it. That's always going to be good for the sport as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, we will look forward to that.
I
But
think that leads us up to go on.
yeah, so as for like the feats of strength, so we've got Luke's coming up next. on the 16th. So that'll be some excitement to watch then.
Yeah, I mean he's already done 228.4 kilo
He has
in the
indeed.
gym, so I think he's already beaten the record by just under half a kilo. He's saying he wants 230 at least.
I think he's got
I
that.
think he's got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
all
and
day.
it's cool. I mean, that record has stood for a very, very long time,
Mm.
which I think just goes to show how amazing Big Z was as a presser. But it'll be cool to see that. I think people need to appreciate what he's doing. He's gonna try and put 230 kilos above his fucking head
Yeah,
with a log, not even a barbell that's comfortable and easy to press with a fucking awkward object. That's impressive. You know, a 230 kilo deadlift is impressive. A lot of people who compete might not think that's impressive because we've got skewed perceptions on what is normal.
mm-hmm.
But, you know, the average person can't pick up 230 kilo,
Mm.
let alone put it over your fucking head.
Yeah.
So big ups to Luke. He's worked hard for a long time. He's been around a while. He's a little bit older than a lot of the other guys. He's worked a full-time job and competed as well. So it'd be really cool to see him take this record on a lift that he's just good at. Like there aren't many log pressers who are as technically good as Luke.
No, definitely not.
You know, Hicksy is a great log presser. It's a shame he's not going for it as well. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I think the big interesting thing as well though is we've got this record coming up, but then we've got the log press championships at Europe's as well. Whenever it's outlined for August, whether it will go ahead in August, we don't know. But
Yeah,
we've got that outline for that. Is the record going to be broken again there? You know, you've got Iron Bibby
quite
competing
possibly.
at that again. Hicksy will compete at that. So
Yeah,
is that going to be the opportunity that these guys are going to need to go and say, "Oh, okay, that's now what I've got to hit."
let's have a crack. Yeah,
Exactly. And Bibby unofficially has done 233. Was that what the unofficial
yeah.
was?
So I can't remember off the top of my head, but I definitely don't see this being a record that's going to last as long as Zadrunas did.
No, they're not.
Like you say, it could fall as early as August, which will be a bit of a shame for Luke, but he will be able to say that at one point he had the log lift record and that he broke Big Z's log lift record. That is, I think, the biggest talking point for him.
Yeah. And I think it's great for Luke. Like, it's so good to see that when he came offshore and was allowed to, like, work onshore for the rest of the time, like, you can see the night and day change in his training, in his everything, really. You look at how well he did at Wuss last year. He's
Yeah,
finally on the podium for Britain's. His training's just got scary at the minute, and he almost broke the record at the Arnold's on the log. He was very close to that.
yeah. Just
So
makes you think what could he have done if he'd been able to do this
yeah, exactly.
3-4 years ago?
Yeah, and I mean
Scary.
Tom is a testament to that. Tom's been a full-time strongman now for a good few years,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
look at his progress. He's 25, is he? Something like that, and he's
possibly. Yeah.
just a scary dude for that age. Like, to be nearly picking up a 300 kilo stone and to have the plan to pick up a 300 kilo stone, it's fucking unheard of. Like, a lot of people won't
Yeah,
get near 200 in their lifetime, and he's doing 300. Scary.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this kind of leads us to the last point that you wanted to go over, which was like the future of the sport after all of this. After the lockdown ends and hopefully the world goes back to normal, what direction the sport goes in. It's only getting heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Every show is, you hear some of the events coming up and it's just a shock at how heavy the weights are starting to get. But in a way, is this a bad thing? Are we condemning some of these athletes to shorter careers than we used to see with the likes of Brian Shaw and Big Z? Because I know Big Z recently was asked what he kind of puts his long career down to, and his answer was that the weights just weren't as heavy years ago, and they've just gotten stupidly heavy. You know, I don't know. What's your take on that? Are we starting to see a bit of an issue potentially coming up?
I mean, I don't know. I think the sport has always been built around I want to be the biggest, the best, have lifted the heaviest, and I think that's what's built the sport. I think now we're at a point where it's a lot more achievable that we can go to those heavyweights. You know, it's not as hard to make things that are that heavy now. So I agree completely that this is where the sport's going to go. It's only going to get heavier. Obviously, there's going to be a ceiling at some point. Like, you know, no one's going to be ever deadlifting a ton, you know, shit like that. But
Yeah, of course.
you know, we are going to reach the ceiling at some point. When that is, who knows? But it is definitely going to shorten people's careers. But I think a lot of people don't come in it for a long time. They come in it for a good time, so to speak. They come in because they want to.
Hey.
So yeah, exactly. But it is exactly the point. You know, they don't come into this sport thinking, "Oh, I want to be a strongman for X amount of years." It's I want
15, 20 years,
yeah, I want to be the fucking best, and I want to be that now. And you know,
yeah. With
sport is adjusting.
the yeah, I was going to say with the likes of it looking like Thor maybe stepping down and ending his kind of competitive run, which I can see with the kid coming along, with the fight. You know, he's been near 200 kilos in body weight for how long? Like, that's not healthy.
No.
Even at 6'9", like being that big is not good for you. Like, you're still a human. You still got a heart that needs to pump blood around. Like, the being that big isn't necessarily a healthy thing to try and do. Like, you know, Brian Shaw has started trying to lose a bit of weight. You know, Eddie was, again, he pushed the envelope when it came to how much weight you could gain, and especially being a lot shorter than the other guys. Like, he really took it to the extreme of being unhealthy, which I think is probably the reason why he had so many troubles after the deadlift and why he had to lose so much weight. Do you think we're going to see the average kind of pro strongman get a bit lighter now and maybe look a bit more like the likes of Lisis and Kielishkovsky and Novikov, who are nowhere near as big, a bit more athletic looking? I mean, Martin's maybe the bigger end of those examples. I don't know. What you think? Are we going to start seeing a resurgence of a leaner, fitter looking pro strongman rather than the monsters that we've had?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be the place for that monsters. Like, you know, like you say, you look at Kieliskowski, you look at Tom Stoltman. You know, there's two lads that are, you know, these absolute monsters of humans, but they've got six packs. So
Yeah,
it goes to show perfectly. You know, you don't have to be 200 kilos to be strong. And I think that's the great thing with these guys coming through is it proves that. You know, Pudzianowski proved that. You know, back in the day, he just looked like a fucking bodybuilder. But I guess that was a different time. The weights were a lot lighter then.
Yeah, he was definitely not shifting the kind of weights that, say, Thor is. But, you know, in a way, Thor being his size does make some things a bit more accessible to him. You know, being 6'9", I think he is, you know, he's 6'8", 6'9", he does have to move objects further, so he is doing more work. So it's not necessarily easier for him, but because he's bigger, but definitely being the heavier body weight tends to make things a lot more accessible to him. But when you look at the likes of, you know, Kielishkovsky absolutely slapped him about on a lot of the events at the Arnolds and was very unfortunate, in my opinion, to not win that show.
Yeah.
And to do it at such a lighter body weight and leaner body composition definitely shows, like you say, that you don't have to be that big as these other guys to do that. And I think it would be good for the sport because a lot of people, because of this reign that we've had of Shaw, Hall, and Thor,
Mhm.
that you've got to be a big fucker, a big freak to be good at strongman. I mean, you're going to have to be somewhat fucking unusual to get to their level. If you look at every pro strongman, they're a fucking freak.
Yeah.
You know, just genetically far superior to most people. But that's going to stop a lot of people, I think, getting into the sport. Whereas if we've got more people like the likes of Tom, Stoltman, Kielishkovsky, Novikov, who look good as well as being strong, that might maybe make strongman seem a little bit more accessible to people thinking about getting into. I mean, if you look at the likes of like the top amateur strongmen, some of those fuckers are strong, like really strong, and also quite lean. If you look at like the 105 class and above, some of those bastards are pretty lean and freakishly strong.
Yeah.
Like, not far behind the pros. So, but nobody sees that because no one cares about amateur strongman. Like, no one gives a fuck. They want to see big freaks doing shit because it's easier to go, look at that big fucker. Like, he's a freak. Of course he can do that. If you see someone who looks like them a few years down the line doing it, I don't know, maybe it makes people uncomfortable. But I think I'd like to see some healthier looking pro strongman come through and maybe get rid of this mentality of strongman being a sport for fat fuckers.
Yeah. And I think, it's just a testament really to see where fitness as just a whole is going. Nutrition now is so much more advanced than it was back then. Even looking back to the sort of times when like Z and Shaw were at the height, nutrition probably still wasn't, it might have been a thing, but it wasn't certainly not as advanced as it is now. And it's only going to get better and better and better. And so I think, it's not going to be long before we do see these fellas that are absolutely ripped, but they're just ridiculously fucking strong. I mean, Thor,
Yeah.
200 kilos, but he's still a fucking ripped dude.
Yeah, he definitely looked healthier at that higher body weight than, say, Eddie did. Like I say, it's still not good for you.
Oh, certainly not.
Bigger animals die. Bigger animals die younger. They die earlier. They die quicker. That's just life. You can't expect a long career at that kind of body weight. But in terms of competitions, then I think something that worries me is that every competition is now trying to be the biggest and heaviest. For years it's always been the Arnold, with it being confined to a stage, it had to be super fucking heavy because they just didn't have the room for longer events, longer medleys and stuff. So I think keeping that as a really heavy event. I know a lot of people complained the last year or maybe even the last 2 years that World's Strongest Man was just too light. It wasn't heavy enough. Which I think when you consider they had a 600 kilo yoke, shut the fuck up. Like, that's heavy. But a lot of people complaining that it's too much about foot races and not enough about actually who's the strongest. But is that a bad thing? If you look at Worlds years ago, you were looking at really long distance carry events and of more rep events that I think shows a different kind of strength, a different quality of strength. And then you've got, I don't know, what seems to be a middle ground where it's not stupidly heavy, it's not necessarily stupidly light. I know they've had some quite light events. That was Wuss that had the
And he had like
Husafell carry that, like the 300 kilo yoke, which was a joke, into was it a Husafell carry, and that's what popped Kielishkovsky's bicep. So I think
carry, wasn't it?
it was a shield. That was it. Yeah. So in a way, I'd like to maybe see some events that are lighter, but for longer distances again. So there's that fitness component. Maybe not to the extreme where it is a foot race with, that takes 10 seconds.
Carry.
Yeah, that was stupidly dangerous. I don't know what's your take on that. Do you think we're going to see all big comps are going to start looking the same, or
I
are we
don't
still
think
going to have that variety?
I still, like we touched on before, the federation things, they're all going to look different. Until someone comes in and says, right, look, this is what it's going to be from now on, they're all going to try and better each other, and that is by making it a bigger spectacle. That's just what it is. So I think we're a long way away from seeing what you were talking about then, is these distance things, more like fitness. I mean, we always joke that strongman is just CrossFit for big boys, but we aren't going to see that CrossFit aspect for years and years, I don't think, because
Yeah.
until someone, until we get another John Powell Sigmason, it's not going to happen until someone goes, shit, this fella's died at 30 because he was too big, had done too many extracurriculars, had lifted too heavy, too young, and all this. I think it's gonna take another one of those to really jumpstart what you're talking about. So I think until that happens, it is going to be exactly what it's only going to be bigger, better, faster, all that sort of shit. It is always going to be that for now.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd still like to have a clear difference between the events, though, and definitely keep Arnold as stupidly fucking heavy and keep the other shows a bit more moderate, just because otherwise the amount of strain that these athletes are going through at the highest level, if they're competing in all three big shows and they're all very heavy shows, we're going to see more injuries for sure. And I just think in terms of from a athlete career longevity standpoint, I think it'd be nice to at least have one show be a little bit lighter. And if that's worse because it's a bit more of a spectacle, they do put on a good live show with some of the equipment that they used. Like you say, the 10 stone Atlas Stone run, that was a first. Like, that was fucking cool to watch. And a lot of their equipment just looks a bit different. They get a lot of stuff made for them. Same way they do at the Arnolds, they get custom kit made, but I don't know. I just don't want to see every comp be the same. Let's keep that variety and let's keep that. We don't want a show where all shows where it's like it's just static, big static lifts and short carries with max weight. Like, that's just not fun. Let's see medleys. Let's see some more obscure distance carries. I thought the Husafell carry from the Arnolds a couple of years ago was cool. That the replica Husafell, that was a really cool way of doing a max distance, and the way they've done the Wheel of Pain is cool. But there was something about watching Strongman a few years ago where you've got guys doing really long carries and then just hitting the deck, eating dirt because they're going as long as they can. That, I don't know, it just tests your soul, I guess, a bit more.
Yeah, I guess you got to think on the flip side of that is that, again, it goes back to these are big fucking guys. If they're going to that extent, then it's just not healthy. And I think that's probably the main reason at the minute is that people's, it's still that transition that you've got these half lean athletes, but then the other half are just the monsters that we're used to. That, that's probably another reason that we're not going to see any event changes for a good while, is that until everyone walks in looking like Kiliskowski, looking like Stockman, looking like Novikov, we aren't going to get that because it's just not a fucking wise choice.
Yeah. That's a fair point. There's a fair point. There's a lot of people talking about all the records and stuff dividing the fans. What do you think about that? Like,
oh yeah, definitely. But it was always going to. It's just you've got to think of it as we're all stuck inside at the minute, or most of us are stuck inside. It's something good to watch. It's something fun to talk about, and maybe that's why it's all come about. Is they knew it'd split opinions.
yeah,
They knew that it'd cause that divide, and it's making strongman really relevant at the minute, and it's an important thing to do. You know, we're on the rise, and that's a good thing to see. And if this is what it takes to make it, you know, make that rise quicker, then fuck yeah, I'm behind it. You know, like I say, at first I wasn't the biggest fan of it all, but now I've watched one, I can't wait to watch the rest, and I do believe in the legitimacy of it all. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's.
So how much do you think? How much do you think is going to change in the next couple of years then?
Not a lot, I don't think. I mean, obviously, obviously with all the lockdown shit that's going on, maybe there's going to be audience size differences, like crowd control shit like that. But in terms of the events, I can't see too much difference for now. Like I say, until, you know, it gets to the point where we have that same body type across the board, or we sadly get another John Pell, then I don't think things are going to change.
Yeah, fair.
So,
I can see that.
So
well, I think, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything there. I think we could probably talk about strongman for an absolute age, but I think,
yeah, we've waffled on for a while about all the things that we wanted to check off. I'm just going back through and seeing if there was anything else we kind of talked about. No, that was all the points we had, wasn't it?
it was, man. So yeah, good to see you as always. Good to hear
Yeah,
you.
this has been fun. It's good to see you again. I think this is the thing that is a bit weird for everyone, isn't it? We've not seen a lot of the people that we'd normally see day in, day out for a long time, and it's just a bit shit. But at least we've still got ways of communicating. Can you imagine going through all this if we didn't have, the internet?
Yeah. Podcast via carrier pigeon. It's a fun way of doing it.
I don't think it'd work very well.
Nah, I don't know how to keep pigeons either. But
no,
there's
no
a discussion for another week.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, should we try and find some way of getting people to put in some questions for us about the way we do strongman at Taylor's and our thoughts on things, and kind of go over something in a couple of weeks' time, maybe?
I like that.
Do
That's
another
a
one.
very good idea. So there you go. If you have any questions on strongman in Taylor's, any questions on strongman in general, hit us up on all the things, the Facebook, Instagram, on the app. If you've got the Taylor's app, hit us up on that. Any question, let us know. I'm sure we'll reconvene at some point, mate, and do another podcast about something else. And I look forward to that.
Please, for all the listeners, please leave a review and let us know what you think. I think you're doing a great job so far, mate, so keep it up.
Nice one, man. Peace out, A-Town down, and everyone else, I will see you in a week. Later, man.
Yeah, see you later. See ya.